I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, adjourned meeting Tuesday, November 17th, 2015, General District Courtroom, Edwin R. Shields Courthouse Edition. Roll call, Mr. Mundy.
Mr. Harville.
Present.
Mr. Barber.
Here.
Mr. Sneed. Mr. Blackstock.
Present.
Mr. Barksdale.
Present.
Mr. Hagerman.
Here.
Ms. Bowman.
Here. Have one correction to make on the agenda before we approve it. Correct case number 5 under the zoning cases, which is just a couple of pages over. That is in the Bannister district and not in the Chatham-Blairs district. So just correct that to Bannister. That's the only thing I have. Nothing else. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Pledge. Pledge.
All right, okay.
We're still in the motion.
Well, we're going to go ahead and do the pledge
Okay.
first and then come back to that. All right. Okay, would you please stand with me as we recite the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, I will entertain, if there are any items to be added to the agenda? If there are no items, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Horrible, Mr. Barber. All in favor, raise your right hand. We will now move on to hearing of citizens, and we have a large group tonight. Good to see all of you here. Before we start hearing from the citizens, I would like to recognize one group that is here tonight, the Southside Leadership class that the Chamber sponsors, and we really are happy to have you here. And you're here to see how our government operates and see leaders in action, and hopefully it'll all be pleasing to you. And again, I'd love for you to stand. Lynette Lawson, she is the program manager, and Lori Moran is here too, I believe. Is she still here? There she is with the Chamber. Welcome, all of you. Thank you for being here. And these are our future leaders, and hopefully you will all stay in the county or city and stay in this area and move forward in leadership positions. We've only had a couple people sign up to speak on the hearing of the citizens. The first one is it Dr. or Reverend Campbell? Reverend Campbell, Reverend Parrell Campbell. Darrell, come forward. Thank you. And we do ask when you come forward to remember that we are being recorded, and sometimes it's hard to pick up everything. We would like for our speakers to take the microphone in your hand, if you would, please, and speak right into it. And you have 3 minutes.
All right. I want to just take a moment first and just thank you for this opportunity. And I want to quote John Adams, our second president. He made this statement: "The general principles upon which the fathers achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity. Those general principles of Christianity are as eternal and immutable as the existence and attributes of God." The wall that has been erected of separation of church and state was not a wall outlined in our original Constitution, as you well know. It's been a wall that's just been built over the times. And the framers never meant to eradicate God out of our public life, our political life, and our business life. This evening, the Mill Creek Community Church is here to present a check for $1,000 to the Board of Supervisors to let you know that we stand behind you in your battles, but also to say thank you for your courage and your faith. And I would like to read a scripture verse and then pray. Psalm 33:12. "Blessed is that nation whose God is the Lord." May we pray. Our Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this community. We thank you for this nation. We ask wisdom. We ask for courage. We ask for direction. we ask for repentance. And we ask that you will guide us and direct us in these days ahead. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you. And Reverend Campbell, what district do you reside?
I live in the, just out on the line in Danville. I'm actually the Pittsylvania County District by Mount Herman.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Now, with the check, do we?
And you hand that to
Okay.
Mr. Mundy.
Thank you for the check.
Thank you. Yes. Next is Karen Mowdy.
Mr. Harville, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk with you today. And I didn't mean to come tonight, except for that the email that I sent only went to Mr. Monday and to Mr. Blackstock, and I thought it went to everyone. So I wanted to take a moment to read the email to everyone. It says, "Dear Supervisors, please accept and acknowledge this complaint regarding the agenda items of the Pittsylvania County Agricultural Development Board. The Pittsylvania County Agricultural Development Board has the following listed as closed sessions on its agenda for November 19th. Number 1 is Project Lignum. Number 2, Project Candle. Number 3 is Project Achieve." And the email further goes on to state, which I will send it tonight when I get home, "I do not recall these updates being presented to the Board of Supervisors, nor do they appear on the agenda of the November 17th agenda," which is tonight, "of the Board of Supervisors. Staff updates concerning prospective businesses and industries or expansions to a lesser and unelected board prior to and possibly instead of updating the county's elected officials is improper. There are hundreds of farmers in Pittsylvania County. Only a handful of them are members of the Agricultural Development Board. Why should a few farmers be privy to information that will aid them in business decisions and investments? This is unfair to the hundreds of other farmers and businesses in the county. It is similar to inside trading in that a select group have access to confidential or non-public information which could result in advantages to which a majority of others are not privy. Leveling the playing field for all farmers, agribusiness in Pittsylvania County is what we should be looking at here. So in the email I stated, and I'll state tonight, I respectfully request that staff update the county's elected officials on Lignum, Candle, and Achieve as an agenda item on the Board of Supervisors and have these items stricken from the closed session of the November 19th Agricultural Development Board. I feel very strongly about this, and looking at that, and I look through some of the past agendas, I may have missed something. But I feel like our elected officials are the ones who should be recipients of these updates. And with a few select members of the Agricultural Development Board getting these updates, it is unfair to the other farmers and businesses in this community. So I think the closed sessions of the Agricultural Development Board on these 3 issues, you should ask them to take them off, and you should be briefed on these before they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mowdy. That's all that we had sign up to speak under the hearing of the citizens. So we will now move on to the consent agenda, and once we have a motion on that, this will be a roll call vote, Mr. Mundy. Could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I make the motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Barbara? Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Mundy.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
Thank you. We will now move on to our public hearings. We have zoning cases tonight, and just as by way of a little information for our leadership class that's here tonight, when there are cases that are looking to be zoned, rezoned, they go through two hearings. They first go before the Planning Commission, and then the Planning Commission makes recommendations, and then it comes to the board. And this is actually the second public hearing on those cases. And like I said, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to either approve or deny. So with that, pursuant to Article 5, Division 6 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, we, the Board of Supervisors, have been empowered to hear and decide specific rezoning issues and zoning map changes in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, we are responsible for promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. We must ensure that all our decisions and recommendations be directed to these goals, and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its posterity. Anyone here to speak to the board regarding zoning cases will be limited to 3 minutes. I will open case number 1 at 7:14. Mr. Shelton.
Case 1R-15-032, William and Lloyd Graffett have petitioned to rezone a total of 15.25 acres, 2 parcels of land located off Cemetery Road in the Stanton River Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff number is enclosed in the board packet. Madam Chair, Lloyd Graffett is here to represent the petition.
Thank you. Mr. Gravitt, would you come forward? Good evening, Ms. Gravitt. Do you have anything to add to the case?
No, not really. We purchased the property 5 years ago, over 15 acres. We had a couple of horses. It's at the end of a dirt road. No neighbors really in sight. Didn't think there was any issue until somebody wanted to buy our house, and they had horses, and they said, well, you shouldn't have horses, you're residential. And that was news to us, and we came right down here and wanted to change it and make sure everything's right. And, you know, whether they buy it or they don't buy it, we still want to keep our horses. And
All right, thank you, Ms. Gravitt. And we didn't have anyone sign up to speak. So with that, I will close the public hearing at 7:15.
Madam Chair, I move that we rezone from R1 to A1 in case A1R-15-032, 2 parcels, 12.25 acres, 3 acres in the Stanton River District off of Cemetery Road.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Lundy.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Gravitt. Your property has been rezoned, and you're welcome to leave, or you're also welcome to stay. Case 2, open the hearing at 7:16. Mr. Shelton.
Case 2R-15-033, Weston Lee Francis has petitioned to rezone 2.94 acres located on US Highway 29 in the Child Miles Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to B2 Business District General for future commercial development. Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff numbers included in the board packet, Madam Chair. Weston Francis and Mr. Bill Rogers is here to represent the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Good evening.
How are you?
You have anything to add?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay, you may have a seat. We do have one that has signed up to speak. We may need to call you back. Clinton Taylor.
Thank you, ma'am. And board,
I moved out there 45
Tell
years.
us, are you in this district? Are you in this Chatham Parish district?
I'm in that district there. I built the house out there 45 years ago, and now Deerwood is built in there. All of y'all know Deerwood. That's a residential area, all of it. And where these people were trying to get changed, that was residential. And y'all turned it down about 4 or 5 years ago when Mr. Yates had it, Parker Yates had it. Y'all turned that down. He wanted to get it changed to business. And we was over here then. I don't have nobody over here tonight with me because everybody's working. Everybody's land that borders this land is working. I'm the only one that's not. I've been retired 12 years. And I'm here to protest you changing that over to a business. I'd like for it to stay residential, and the ones that can't be here tonight, they want it to stay residential because our land touches that land. That our land's all the way around it. So we would like from where you turn to go into Deerwood to where you turn to go into George Giles's, keep that residential because there's a whole lot of houses in there. And remember, Brenda, we all voted for you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'll leave it at that. I ain't no speaker. My back's killing me.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Bill. I didn't mean to hurt you.
Mr. Francis, I might ask you to come back up because there might be some questions from the board. Are there any questions? Anybody have any comments? Do you have anything else to say, Mr. Francis?
Yes, ma'am.
In response to this?
I'm rezoning approximately 3 acres. My property does not join his. I have the map here if you'd like to look at it. It's 500 foot right on 29. I bought an extra 50 foot on the back side of the property that's heavily wooded that would be used as a buffer zone. If something were to go there in the future. As far as that, I mean, it doesn't join him. I bought the property from Miss Yates. She owned about, I think it's 12 acres total. Previously, she had tried to rezone the whole entire property. I'm just trying to rezone the 3 acres that joins, that has 500 foot on the front of 29. That's.
All right, I'm looking at the map. There's business across the highway and then right directly across B1, and then a block up is B2. So there seems to be a mix there. Are you're residing in the house right now? Right?
Not currently. I'm in the process of painting it and fixing it up. I'm going to move in it, yes, ma'am.
You don't have any immediate plans for the...
No, ma'am. It's for future use.
Any other questions? Comments, Mr. Harville?
Mr. Francis, I have saw this, and I know the last time this came up, the conditions wasn't as favorable as they are tonight to me. As Madam Chair has mentioned, the commercial B1 across the road, and also I was impressed about the buffer behind it, 50-foot buffer.
Yes, sir.
We don't usually have people that give up 50 feet just for a buffer to protect the neighbors, and that's being a good neighbor and a good steward, I think. And right behind this is on George Lane. It's a mobile home park, isn't it?
It's down the road a little further, the mobile home park.
Yeah, down the road.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how about on George's Lane? The buffer's on the backside, right?
Yes, sir. It's on the backside. Yes, sir.
Okay. So George's Lane, is it any shrubbery, anything there? I don't recall. Or would you plant some trees along there as a buffer? Or I see the main problem is behind it, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's all wooded behind it.
Yeah. So you got a 50-foot buffer,
Yes, sir.
and you plan on maintaining that 50-foot buffer permanently?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thank you, Mr. Francis, that's all I have.
Anything else, Mr. Francis, you want to add?
No, ma'am, that's
Okay,
it.
thank you. You may be
All right.
seated. All right, no one else speak, signed up, and it's 7:21. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Barksdale?
I make a motion that the board approve case R-15-033 to rezone 2.94 acres from R1 residential suburban subdivision to B2 business district general.
Mr. Sneed? And any other discussion?
I actually visited, it's not in my district, but I went over and visited the property. It's right on 29, and I don't see where it would do anything to harm the community as it exists now. So I'm gonna support it.
Okay, and I would like to say too that this is a little different than the one that we did deny. I don't know exactly when we had that hearing, but that backed right up to the residents, and that's why that one was denied, because what they were asking to zone to business did back up to other property, where this one, he's not gonna use, he's not asking for the whole parcel to be rezoned, and he's gonna leave that buffer there. So it is a little different situation, say that. What, Mr.
Yeah,
Harville?
Yeah, I agree with that. I had stated that earlier, is reason to say it was different from the first time. And I think to give up 50 feet, and two, to live in a house, you know, I don't guess any of it could answer that, how long he'll live in a house, and maybe rest his life, he'd get there and don't want to go anywhere else, but we know he will be living in the house. And with that 50-foot buffer, I think that speaks volumes.
All right, if no other comments, I'll take a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, this is roll call. Sorry, Mr. Mundy. Take a lesson, young folks. I get confused sometimes. Roll call.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Francis, your property's been rezoned. Open up case number 3 at 7:25. Mr. Shelton.
Case 3 R-15-034, Mountain Land Company LLC has petitioned to rezone 4 6/10 acres located on US Highway 29 in the Chatham Blount election district from R1 residential suburban subdivision district to B2 business district general for future commercial development. The planning commission with no opposition recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff summary is included in the board packet. Madam Chair, William Thomas Rogers is here to represent the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Do you have anything to add?
No, ma'am, not this time.
All right, and I don't believe anybody signed up. Double check. No, so you may have a seat. Thank you. No one signed up, so we'll close the public hearing at 7:26. And entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the board approve case R-15-034 to rezone 4.60 acres from R1 residential suburban subdivision to B2 business district general.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, roll call, Mr. Lundy.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes,
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Rogers, your property has been rezoned. All right, we'll move on to case 4, open up at 7:27. Mr. Shelton?
Case 4 R-15-035, William and Judith Rogers have petitioned to rezone 5,800 of an acre located on US Highway 29 in the China Plains election district from R1 residential suburban subdivision district 2, B2 business district general 4, future commercial development. The planning commission with no opposition recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Madam Chair, Mr. Bill Rogers is here representing.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, do you have anything to add?
No, ma'am, just that this joins property that I presently own that's zone B2. This just puts me closer to the sewer line and the water line.
Okay, thank you. And we had no one signed up to speak, so we'll close the public hearing at 7:28. Entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the board approve case R-15-035 to rezone .58 of an acre from R1 residential suburban subdivision to B2 business district general.
Sneed, second. Any more discussion? Roll call, Mr. Mundy.
Well, discussion, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it, so you.
Yes, I'd just like to comment for the record, because this is something that we should always do. That partial that's added on is just making the B2 larger. It abuts that and joins it, so it's consistent with our comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mr. Harville, any other comments? Roll call, Mr. Mundy.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Haberman?
Yes.
Mr. Barstow?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers, property's been rezoned. Case 5, open up at 7:29. Mr. Shelton.
Case 5, R-15-036, William P. Rogers has petitioned to rezone a total of 4 parcels of land, 1 parcel containing 6.16 acres, 3 parcels with no lot size on file in the Commissioner of Revenue office from B2 business district general and M1 industrial district light industry to M2 industrial district heavy industry for future industrial development. The 3 parcels are located on US Highway 29 and on State Road 719, Lawrence Creek Road in the balanced election district. The planning commission with no opposition recommended granting the petitioner's request. Staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Madam Chair, Mr. Bill Rogers here to represent the petition.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers. Do you have anything else to add?
No, ma'am, nothing to add to.
Okay, thank you. No one else signed up to speak. So with that, I will close the hearing at 7:30.
Get somebody waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see you. Did you want to speak?
No, I just wanted to ask why there was no lot size available and why the county didn't determine a lot size before the public hearing.
Mr. Shelton, can you?
It's no requirement I know of to survey existing property in Pittsylvania County. You know, whatever size it is what it is. And those parcel IDs is what he's petitioned to rezone.
So, Madam Chairman, how do you know how many acres are?
Hold on, just hold on.
Yeah, but I don't know of anything unless that's a legal thing, if it's a parcel ID number, you know, they want to rezone it. To my knowledge, you can.
It actually says here there's no size on file in the Commissioner of Revenue's office.
That's correct.
Mr. Hunt?
I don't see a problem with it, and I think Mr. Rogers has got a map.
The map on record has the square footage of each parcel. That is recorded in the clerk's office.
Would you like to know the square footage, Ms. Mowdy, of each
I'm
parcel?
not questioning Mr. Rogers. I'm
Okay.
just saying it would seem like it would be in the best interest of the county to know what the acreage is for the public hearing so that people will know. That's my only comment.
All of them are between 23,000 to 27,000 square feet. They're less, like half acre each.
Thank you.
About a half acre each. Okay, thank Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Blackstock.
And the board members received a outline of the property size and all adjoining properties too. It's typical lot sizes, the lots that he's asking to rezone are in our board packet.
Mr. Harville.
Madam Chair, I think since it's been revealed, for the record, Mr. Hunt, I think it would be appropriate to add the footage that Mr. Rogers had to the motion, to clear that up. That way there's no question, in not knowing how much it is, we would have for the record the square footage.
Okay,
So if Mr. Rogers,
Come on.
if this is approved, Mr. Rogers could get with Mr. Shelton and have that recorded. Ms. Mowdy, does that make reasonable effort?
Absolutely, it should have been done prior to the public hearing.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, would you call out this, square
Madam
footage?
Chair, I mean,
You
it's
think
it's
you
been
would?
called out. What I would recommend, let's go ahead and cover this case and let Mr. Rogers get with Mr. Shelton and have this recorded for the minutes.
Okay.
This map is on record, there are lots 16.
Well, Mr. Rogers, that's not the point that Ms. Mowdy was making, that was not in the package on this. It's recorded, that's true, and that's good. But I just think you need to give the footage to Mr. Shelton and let him record it for this case tonight. It'll go on record that that's the square footage. So that will tell you the lot size.
Okay. You'll get with Mr. Shelton before you leave tonight and give that to him. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, ready for a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve case 5R-15-036 to rezone a total of 4 parcels of land. One parcel containing 6.16 acres from B2 Business District General to M2 Industrial District Heavy Industry, and 3 parcels Zone M1 Industrial District Light Industry to M2 Industrial District Heavy Industry.
Second.
Barber. Any other discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall.
In going by the zoning rules, just want for the record, this is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. All right, with that, Mr. Mundy, roll call vote.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed? Yes. Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Barstow?
Yes.
And Mr. Rogers, been rezoned. And y'all are certainly welcome to leave, or you're welcome to stay. All right, we're moving on. Earlier today, the Property and Building Committee met, and I'll ask Mr. Barksdale to make any recommendations from that.
Madam
committee.
Chair, yes, we do. We have 2 for the property, from the Property Building Committee. The committee recommends that we authorize the county administrator and staff to survey a designated site and bring back to the board a recommendation for the full board to approve.
And that covers a recommendation from the committee, so it does not need a second. And that's just a hand.
Just
All right,
vote.
Could you
any
repeat that
discussion?
motion again?
Okay, the committee recommends that we authorize the county administrator and staff to survey a designated site and bring back a recommendation to the full board for approval.
I think
Designated
that
site.
it needs to have the site, it doesn't refer to the school, or, so there needs to be something in the recommendation as to what we're talking about.
I think you're talking about item B, not the watch for children's signs.
No,
Here you go.
I don't think so.
6A is a watch.
I think he's talking about the right one. He just didn't mention that it's the school, the Blair School, so that people will know what we're talking about. So
That's item
We're
B.
talking about the property, the school.
Right. So just include that in your motion.
Okay, so where do you want me to add that?
The confusion is that we're talking about 6B, we've skipped over 6A, the watch program. They're not in order.
Well,
See 6A?
yeah, I went,
Is there any recommendation for that, 6A?
okay, I got that one too.
Okay.
Madam Chair, would you like for me to, which one do you want me to do?
It is
The children
confusing,
at
it
play
is
sign?
confusing the way the packet is set
Yeah.
up, I see that.
Okay.
Actually, 6A is the Watch for Children sign program, that is the first one.
Okay. Madam Chair, the committee recommends that the board authorize staff to bring back a proposal to enter into a 50-50 cost-sharing agreement with VDOT.
Okay, and that does come as a recommendation, it's not a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Now, back to the part of the school, and that's the commemorative sign. Item B.
Okay, a question, point of order. So do you want me to, okay, let me just go through it again. Okay, the committee recommends that we authorize the county administrator and staff to survey a designated site and bring back a recommendation to the full board for approval.
And we still want to have in that, though, that it is the Blair's, after Blair's Middle School. You can stick that in there somewhere.
Madam Chair, would you like for it to read, survey a designated site at the Blair's Middle School? Okay,
Okay. And that comes as a recommendation from the committee?
Yes.
Does
For the
not-
commemorative sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have that in the motion too, for the commemorative sign? Add that to it.
just a second.
Does everybody understand the motion now?
Yeah, but I really don't think it's amounts to anything yet, because once this is done, it comes back to the full board, and everything will be explained, exactly how much land it is and what it's for. All we doing is okay for staff to survey it 25 by 25 long.
All right, we have a motion, a recommendation from the committee, and it does not require a second, so any more discussion? Everybody in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. We move on to item 7 and A, B, C, D, and E. We're just gonna turn this over to Mr. Blackstock, the Finance Committee Chairman, and
Madam Chair, the Finance Committee met today at 5 p.m. With all board members present for a preliminary look at our 2015 year-end report. There were no recommendations coming out of the committee for that. Item 7A. 7B, the FY 2016 year-to-date financial report. We were briefed on that. This discussion of refinancing 2012 notes. Our financial advisor, Mr. Roddy, advised us on those issues, and we took no action. I think we have a paving of the compactor sites listed later in the board packet under unfinished business, item 8. So there's no recommendation coming out of the committee for that, and so basically the Finance Committee was mostly just for our thoughts and ideas and briefing us on the subject matter at hand. So no action is required. Mr. Monday, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
all right, thank you, Mr. Blackstock. We'll move on to item 8 under unfinished business, paving for several sites there. Mr. Mundy, you want to address that?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, at your past board meeting, there was a motion and a second to start the 10-day layover, which has now been met. A roll call vote is required following any such discussion to appropriate $176,500 from the unappropriated fund balance for pavement at 3 compactor sites.
Thank you. I'll entertain we've already had the motion. It was a 10-day layover. And if there's any discussion? If not, we will go to the roll call vote. Any discussion?
I have some discussion. Based on the information that we discussed in the Finance Committee, we're looking at having to make up a lot of money in our budget because of the vote to do away with the solid waste fee, some other things that we're looking at that we're going to have to do to balance the budget, and I'm not comfortable continuing to vote to spend money that we haven't budgeted ahead of time, so I will be voting against this motion.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, Mr. Lundy.
Mr. Harville?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Sneed?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
No.
Mr. Barstow?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Ms. Ballman?
Yes. 6-1. We will now move on to new business, and we're going to switch a little bit. We're going to jump over to item number 13 and have that first. And at this time, I'll have Mr. Harville speak to us about that.
Yes. Madam Chair and fellow board members, I have discussed this with VDOT. VDOT has been out, Virginia Department of Transportation, if you don't know what VDOT is. Anyway, Jay Craddock and Kenneth Martin, this area, we've had a problem in getting an easement, and this is one devastating area there. And if you would, pass those down for the board members to see. The road comes to a dead end. There's no cul-de-sac. It's nothing now, and it runs into a private section. And then another private section picks up, which VDOT can't take it in because there's nothing but swampland down in that way, and they can't get wide enough width, so the citizens is paved that part. But what we have now is just a block in between the state maintenance sign at the end of the Bennett Street, and then where it picks up around the curve. And we need to get this into the rural rustic addition to get this fixed, because the school buses come down and turn around, and it's almost impossible for a school bus to turn around down there and get on other people's property, and this is not a good presence for the county. And at this time, I'd like to refer to Mr. Mundy, a letter from the school interim superintendent.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, in my mail yesterday, I did get a letter of support from Dr. Holland, who mentioned that there is a problem with the school buses using that section of the street. And she did just say that it is a problem for the bus drivers, and just asked the board to take a serious look at the matter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mundy. This is about 1,000 feet. And at this time, I'd like to refer to Dr. Seat, which has been working desperately on this with the neighbors to kind of give his perspective of it.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Seep. Live down around the corner from this section. Well, a lot of this is on my property, but you've actually got 5 or 6 property owners in this small section, and so we've had a tough time with one neighbor, one time or the other, not signing off on giving them permission. The property's been, or the street's been paved for 20-some years or whatnot, and the school buses run down there. 2 school buses run twice a day down there because they have to. So we've had 30-some years of school bus running back and forth, and one of them, the school bus drivers, 2 years ago when they switched bus drivers, one of them couldn't figure out how to do it and started turning around in my yard, and I said, excuse me, you have to do it this way. So that really would be nice for the county to pick up, so we have a place where the school bus actually come down. And right now, as you can see the pictures, it's disintegrated. And I said, I'm not going to put the money into putting the road in because I'm not going to do it when everybody else is running up and down it. So, because I've paved the bottom section to my place and whatnot, but I thought that it'd be a good thing for the county to get a hold of that. It's really actually less than 1,000 feet. It's a lot shorter, but it would be helpful to my clients, to the 14 neighbors or 15, 16 neighbors that it affects right now. So, any questions?
Madam Chair, now I'd like to ask Jay Craddock if he would come. Since Jay represents VDOT, him and Mr. Martin has been out with Dr. Seep and some of the other neighbors, and I'm sure Jay can tell you the condition of this, what a bottleneck it is.
It definitely does see a good amount of traffic, and it does appear that it would, if the board decides to make the recommendation to VDOT, that we could take it in as a rural addition. There would be some more steps that would need to happen later on, but this is the first step for the board to ask us. Then we would need to get the county to actually dedicate the right-of-way, because rural addition funds can't be expended to purchase right-of-way or to relocate utilities. And Mr. Harville has already gotten the petition signed with everybody's signature on it. That'll need to be recorded in the clerk's office. It definitely serves more than 3 families, and it was in public use more than 20 years ago. It was built in the 70s. So it's a good candidate for a rural addition project. Right now in the county cost center for rural addition roads, we have $227,000, and the estimate to build this section to current standards is $162,000. So the money's there to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Craddock.
Thank you.
Mr. Craddock, could I ask a question before you step away? I'm sorry. Is there a list, a priority list, or does this just get put right up there to be done?
Well, as of now, this is the only one I'm aware of that actually qualifies.
Okay.
We do have a priority list for the rural rustic roads, which are the unpaved roads that are already in the system.
Okay.
But this one is not in the system yet. And there have been several others discussed, but this is the only one as of now I know of that actually would qualify.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Craddock,
Mr. Hagan?
do we have
Yes,
a
sir.
time frame on getting that done?
Well, like I said, there. Once all the right-of-way is dedicated, and that's going to be the most time-consuming thing, I guess. I would say, like I said, the money's already there. It doesn't have to be put on the 6-year plan because there's already that chunk of money which was voted on the 6-year plan to be dedicated for rural addition. So we would just have to create a project. I would say probably within a year from the time we get everything from the county we need. I mean, the actual construction of it probably won't take 2 weeks. It's going to be getting the reviews done, the environmental reviews, and that type of thing.
I had my own estimate, but I just wanted the public to know that it's not a 2-day job.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly takes some time.
And on this particular one, we would build it with state forces rather than advertising it for a contractor. So it would probably actually be a little less than a year. This is a good time to get the ball rolling because we're going into wintertime, so we can be doing all the preliminary stuff during the seasons where we couldn't really do any actual construction anyway. And hopefully we could get all that taken care of and go to work next construction season. And like I said, once we start building it, it won't take long.
Thank you. Did you have something else, Mr. Hall?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craddock.
Madam Chair, the reason Mr. Craddock is very familiar with this, and Mr. Mundy is going to come out and look at this too as soon as we get a chance. And but I'd like to go ahead, as Mr. Craddock, he clarified a whole lot of things, and I'd like to pass it on to the board members too, and maybe the future board members in here. I got with Mr. Hunt. This rural addition part is something that we didn't have a petition for, and Mr. Hunt has drawn one up in case any of you need one with the state code and all the qualifications for this. So he's got those on file, and I had to get one before I could even now start with the rural addition. So upon saying that, I'd like to make a motion to get the lower end of Bennett Street up to, it won't be there, but up to 1,000 feet into the VDOT system, and authorize the county administrator to look where he could get up to $3,000 to draw the plat on this. And as Mr. Craddock has said, VDOT doesn't take rural money to draw the plat up. You have to draw the plat up, and Mr. Hunt would have it recorded in the clerk's office to show this road is into the county system. So that's my motion. Is that clear enough, Mr. Mundy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, unanimous. Unanimous, Mr. Mundy. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for moving that up and letting these gentlemen go back to the visit. We have two preachers and one doctor.
And VDOT too. Y'all are
And
welcome to
VDOT.
leave, but if you want to stay, and we don't have much more, so thank you. All right, we're going to move to continue on with new business. Item 9A, there's no, we're not redoing that, right?
Madam Chair, that will be for the board's discretion. Ms. Vanderhyde is prepared to give brief remarks on the year-to-date finance report. It will sort of detail at the committee level. That will be per your discretion.
I don't think we need it.
I don't think, everybody okay with just moving on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, 9B, expenditure refunds. That does require a motion and a 10-day layover.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure refunds for October and the 10-day layover. Is that already been?
It's to start the 10-day layover.
Yeah, start the 10-day layover. Let me kind of summarize this. Staff, this comes with staff recommendation to reappropriate it $27,733.34 as follows, and all of it's listed in the sheriff's Halloween funds, fire marshal training, and such. But the main point is to reappropriate $27,733.34.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barber, and it's a 10-day layover. Item 10, request for public hearing, running at large. You have that, Mr. Mundy?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, the county has been petitioned to consider establishing a designated area for running at large restriction for dogs. This is on Jasper Wood Road in State Route 753. To consider this request, it does require a public hearing, and the staff asked the board to allow us to advertise such public hearing for December 15th at 7 p.m. so you can consider this matter.
Madam Chair, I move that we schedule a public hearing for this matter on the second meeting in December.
A second.
Mr. Longstreet. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Item 11, request for public hearing, property exempt status.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, the ARC of Southside is a 501c3 designated agency. They have requested exemption from real and personal property taxes on 2 parcels of land that they own. The Commissioner of Revenue has provided the required information, including the impact of such revenue loss to the county. In order to consider this request, the board is required to conduct a public hearing and hear citizen comment. And the staff does recommend setting such public hearing on December 15th at 7 p.m.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to request a public hearing to amendment Pittsylvania County Section 6-6.3 property exemption by classification or destination for property owned by Baptist Hall Fire Volunteer Fire Department. Partial.
Wait a minute.
Is that?
That's not the one we're on, I'm sorry.
I'm on
Back up
ahead.
to-
Arc of
yeah.
Southside.
Yeah.
This is ARC.
Yeah, the ARC.
Number 11.
Yeah, to the arc of Southside End.
Thank you.
Then I'll get to the next one in a minute.
Okay.
I second that motion.
All right. favor, raise your right hand. Now, item 12, isn't that tabled, Mr. Mundy? Didn't I see that we tabled that?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Ms. Flippin and I, we were anticipating that we would get the required paperwork in time for this agenda packet. Once we sent out the first draft of the agenda, we were in hopes, like I mentioned, the paperwork did not come in on time to be considered. So we would just ask that you table this matter, and as soon as we get the required paperwork in, we'll ask you to set that public hearing so you can consider that one as well.
Okay, so we'll table item 12, we've handled 13.
We need to make a motion to table.
Do we need a motion to table that, Mr.
Yes.
Mundy? Okay, I'll take the motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we table item number 12 as listed in the board packet, the request for public hearing to amend the code for the Bachelor Hall Volunteer Fire Department parcels listed in the packet itself.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Okay, we now move on to board announcements. Start down here with you, Mr. Hagelman.
No, I haven't, not anything new.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Yes, I'd like to thank all of the audience here tonight for your time, and also wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving and eat all the turkey and dressing you can.
I've done
All right, I have a few announcements. First of all, most of the board members attended the VACO conference this past weekend, and it was very educational. I certainly enjoyed all of the sessions that I attended, and I might give a recap later, but I won't do it tonight, and as that will satisfy Mr. Blackstock. So we'll do that later.
I won't talk about you getting long-winded.
Thank you. I have a letter here, and I won't read it all, but I would like for it to go into the record. A letter from Mac Doss that we presented a plaque to last meeting, as well as Mrs. Hurt, for their 35 years of leadership in the Callens Festival. And he just sent a thank you letter for honoring him, and was very appreciative of it. So we'll put that in the files. One thing I did learn at VACO, though, and I'll just quickly speak on that, some of the citizens do know that all elected officials have to fill out a statement of economic interest, because we've all had to do it many times, and for your new ones coming on. We did learn at VACO the other day that effective January 2016, in light of all that's happened in the last couple of years, and with the Conflict of Interest Act and dealing with Code of Ethics, that anyone who does file their statement of economic interest late will be automatically fined $250. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. A couple of things coming up. December the 5th is we'll have a ribbon cutting at 1 p.m. at the Mount Hermon Volunteer Fire Department. Real excited about that. On December 6th at 3 o'clock is the Danville Parade. December 12th at 11 a.m. is the Chatham Parade. December 13th at 3 p.m. is the Gretna Parade. December 19th at 1 p.m. we will be having a ribbon cutting at the Cascade Bridge over in Mr. Barber's district. And there'll be more on that later. And also there will be a dedication on December the 5th for the Irwin Burton Bridge that was named after Irwin Burton, and that's at 360 and bypass 29. There will be a dedication for that. So we've got a lot of things coming up this in the next few weeks. And with that, Mr. Mundy, I believe you have
Chair,
something.
before you go
Yes.
there,
Yes.
I like to bring up one, since we have a lot of people left. She lived in my district. She was a very, very dear lady. Kathy Parrish was an excellent employee here at the county. She had severe health issues, and she passed away suddenly. And I just like for everybody to remember that family here coming Thanksgiving. It was a close-knit family. remember that family in their prayers, and also the ladies in the office. I talked to one young lady that works in the office, and they work together. And you know, your workplace, you spend more time with people that you work with sometimes than you do at home. So I just like to, everybody, it just holiday season, to remember the parish family and the employees that worked in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Harville. That was a big loss for the county. I think Ms. Parrish had been with the county administrator's office 8 years or something like that, with Ms. Flippin. So, thank you. I believe Mr. Mundy has an announcement he would like to make.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, take you back to April. At such time, you saw fit to approve $150,000 in the county budget to enhance your economic development efforts. Shortly thereafter, as soon as the new budget year started, you asked for some recommendations on how to utilize that $150,000 to its fullest extent. There were some recommendations made to you, including the hiring of an economic development director, and you unanimously, 7-0 vote, authorized the staff to hire an economic development director. The HR department went out immediately, wrote up the job description, the advertisement. We had it posted within just a few days of your direction. We took applications from August through October, and we narrowed it down to 4 very qualified and capable finalists. We brought those in. We had a panel that was made up of inside staff and also outside economic development professional. And we found one candidate that very closely met what we thought the county was looking for to reestablish its development efforts to the next level. That candidate was brought back in for a subsequent interview, and while he was here visiting, I took him around, showed him the county, and I was surprised to hear that he and his wife had already visited the county several times, and making sure that was something that they truly felt that they had a passion for and could add value to our economic development efforts. So the interview process, the follow-up, everything went really well, and I'm happy to announce tonight that we have hired Matthew Rowe, he goes by Matt, as our next economic development director. He will start working for the county on December 15th. Mr. Rowe currently works for Charles City County in Virginia. He works there as a director of planning and development. He is very energetic. He will be in here in mid-December, and I know you will start hearing from him immediately, getting input and ideas for economic development. And again, I would just like to let you know that we have filled the position. He will be here soon. I have prepared a news release of such. You have a copy of that, and it's also been provided for the media. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Mr. Hunt?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all for being with us again tonight.